Welcome to Games from Folktales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson. In a return to Kunz's Lore of Precious Stones, this week we find an interesting Covenant site, we discover that the Pale Mountains are even more enchanting than we recall, and we discover how Roman soldiers kept their spirits up. Moonstone. Kunz, who I'm depending on for much of this material, says, "As a gift for lovers, the Moonstone takes a high rank, for it is believed to arouse the tender passions, and to give lovers the ability to read the future, the fortune, good or ill, that is in store for them. To gain this knowledge, however, the stone must be placed in the mouth while the moon is full." Anthony Misold tells of a selenite, or moonstone, owned by a friend of his, a great traveller. This stone, about the size of a gold piece, known as the gold noble, but somewhat thicker, indicated the waxing and waning of the moon by a certain white point or mark, which grew larger or smaller as did the moon. Misold relates that to convince himself of the truth of this, he obtained the possession of the stone for a lunar month, during which time he sedulously observed it. The white mark first appeared at the top. It was small like a millet seed and increased in size, moving down the stone, always assuming the form of the moon, until, on reaching the middle, it was round like the full moon, and then the mark gradually passed back up again as the moon diminished. The owner declared that he had vowed and dedicated this stone to the young King Edward VI, who was then highly esteemed because he had good judgment in regard of rare and precious things. A swallow engraved on a selenite establishes and preserves peace and concord among men. Now, in one of those lovely coincidences, sorry, I've moved away from Kunz now, the sources of the Moonstone in mythic Europe, there are only two big sources, and they're both near Rheinwaldhorn, which is the tallest of one of the mountains in the Swiss Alps, and it's in the Italian section, which means it's near the Dolomites, and that's infested with moon fairies, which I mentioned a very long time ago in Sanctuary of Ice. Also, I note that to get the selenite to work, you have to put it in your mouth, and, again, through pure happenstance, that calls back to Sanctuary of Ice's idea that Mercury wizards have things called lickstones, and lickstones are tiny magical devices which adhere to the roof of the mouth, so that if the character is robbed, they cannot be robbed of their lickstone. I'd like to suggest the following bonuses for Moonstones: Measuring time 6, Calming Emotions 3, and that people with the true love virtue get an extra 3. Onyx, Sardonyx, and Sard. Onyx is a banded stone, white and black. In mythic Europe, the large deposits are in Germany, Britain, and the Maghreb. The coloured bands are great for making intaglios, because if you slice into the stone in such a way that the colours are flat sheets, you can carve out the white to show the darker colour underneath, creating striking two-tone relief images. To quote Kunz, the onyx, if worn on the neck, was said to cool the ardours of love. Kando relates that everywhere in India the stone was worn for this purpose. The belief is closely related with the idea commonly associated with the onyx, namely that it provoked discord and separated lovers. A camel's head or two goats among myrtles, if on an onyx, has the power to convoke, assemble, and constrain demons. If anyone wears it, he will see terrible visions in his sleep. Sard and Sardonyx. Sardonyx swaps out the black chalcedony for sard, which is brown to red in colour. Beyond what I'm quoting from Kunz, Roman soldiers used to wear amulets of Mars made of sardonyx for bravery. The sard was regarded as protection against incantations and sorcery, and was believed to sharpen the wits of the wearer, rendering him fearless, victorious, and happy. The red of the stone was said to neutralise the malign influence of the dark onyx, driving away the bad dreams caused by the latter, and dispelling the melancholy thoughts it inspired. A curious amulet to avert the evil eye is an engraved sard showing an eye in the centre, around which are grouped the attributes of the divinities presiding over the days of the week. Sunday, the Dies Solis, is represented by a lion. Monday, the Dies Lunae, by a stag. Tuesday, the Dies Martis, by a scorpion. Wednesday, the Dies Mercuriae, by a dog. Thursday, the Dies Jovis, by a thunderbolt. Friday, the Dies Veneris, by a snake. And Saturday, the Dies Saturni, by an owl. In this way, the wearer was protected at all times from evil influence. Shape and material. Onyx is darkness 4, death 4. Suggested additions: Causing Argument 6, Foolhardiness 6, Melancholy 6, Nightmares 4, Summon and Control Demons 3. Sardonyx Bravery 6, Protection from Magic 3, Sard Dreams 3, Positive Momentum Effects 3, Protection from Magic 3. Opal is a really soft gemstone. At a molecular level, it's made up of balls of silicon dioxide held together by water and luck. Even medieval people knew that opals could dry out and crack. That it is so soft makes it easy to work, and the way enchantment makes items more durable might protect them sufficiently to make them worth enchanting. In parts of mythic Europe, opals are considered unlucky, so carrying them grants a flaw, but this isn't a universal belief. One way to get around the problem was to donate the opal to the church. There's a statue of Mary in Spain with a particularly fine opal necklace as a result of this sort of devotion. In some sources I note that this is claimed to be a back formation of folklore. Sir Walter Scott may have popularised the idea that opals were evil in the 18th century, and people adjusted their folklore accordingly. Opal was only found in one location in Europe, Srebrenica in modern Slovakia. This appears perfect for a covenant placement. Opals are so rare only royalty and the princes of the church regularly wear them. For example, the central stone in the crown of the Holy Roman Empire is an opal from Srebrenica. Far later, Queen Elizabeth I was delighted to get a parure of opals. I've probably mispronounced that word. It means a matching set of jewellery. It was likely from the mines in Srebrenica, and it was from Sir Christopher Hatton. He seems to be following me about in my researches recently, but more of him at another time in another place. No wonder people thought they were a couple, though. Modern opal is so cheap because in the 19th century the opal fields of Australia were discovered, and the price went through the floor. I'm Australian, and it's our national gemstone. With the fakes you can get now, which are a sliver of opal with a resin cabochon over the top, costume opal is ridiculously cheap here, and I was shocked to discover it was the centrepiece of the imperial crown. I also notice a lack of discussion of opalized fossils in European sources. Opal at its simplest forms when water leaks into a fracture in rock. It can also be laid down by biological processes, but let's skip that for now. Here in Australia, one of the biggest opal fields is at Lightning Ridge, and the opals formed at the bottom of a shallow sea. The fractures in the rock were sometimes places where the bones of animals had decayed away, leaving a mould for a fossil to form. The largest opalized fossils I've seen are plesiosaur skeletons. For a few years I've been meaning to write up an opalized plesiosaur skeleton as a sort of dragon, and a necromancer doing similar things to human skeletons as an experiment. But I haven't seen any reference to opalized fossils in mythic Europe. My search has only been brief, however, so I still think it's a great idea for a covenant in Srebrenica to have a luminescent Loch Ness monster skeleton as one of its guardians. For shape and material, I'd suggest opal has images 2, imagination 2, invisibility 2, memory 4, travel 4, and eyes 6. Folkloristically, opal is so valuable because it can express the virtue of every stone it has the colour of, and that means opal could substitute for any other gemstone in an enchantment, so it has the material bonuses of every other gemstone. This seems wonderfully significant to, for example, House Verditus, and reinforces my idea for the need of a covenant at Srebrenica. But your saga may vary.